Welcome to the Brave Woman Podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Lynn, founder of Sistership Circle and author of Open Your Heart and The Art of Leading Circle. I'm the mother of 2 girls, an 8 on the Enneagram, aka the Challenger, happily married to my business partner, Brent, love connecting with nature, and have put in well over 10,000 hours circling with other women. On this podcast, we will explore how to embody the brave woman so that you can take action on your dreams and desires, unapologetically speak your truth, and live life on your own terms. Grab a seat and a cup of tea, and let's get started. Hello, brave woman, and welcome to the space. Do you know what the most important work that you can be doing right now as a woman? We are in some crazy times right now. It just feels like there is a collapse coming, that things are being shaken up, and a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, a lot of tension. Sometimes you might just be feeling some random anxiety in your body and wondering what the heck is going on. Is this even mine? Well, the answer is yes and no. You may be feeling the energy of the collective, but you are also part of the collective. And so whatever you are feeling within yourself is both yours and the collective's. And the power of this, of knowing this, is that you can make an impact. You can do great things by understanding that the external is a reflection of the internal. Everything going on out there is a reflection of your internal state. Now it's like, whoa, well, and there might be a million doubts and a million reasons why this is incorrect. And I invite you to consider that this is your source of power. This level of responsibility, 100% responsible, radical responsibility, that the external world is a reflection of my internal state. And so if I change my internal state, if I heal myself, I will impact the world. I can make the change. I am the change I wish to see in the world. And so what is it? What do we need to do as women in this crazy time? Because the thing is, you were born now for a reason. You know this. You came here for the chaos. To heal it, to transform it, to shift it, to create something new. We are on the brink. And with the death comes the rebirth. So giddy up. What is it? It's the heroine's journey. Now, you may have heard of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. It's pretty much the plot in any Hollywood movie. Man sets out on his grand adventure, climbs the mountain, slays the dragons, finds success, wins, becomes the hero. Well, there was a beautiful woman named Maureen Murdoch who was scratching her head and said, I don't know if this actually applies to all women. I don't know if this should be our paradigm, our storyline. And so she created the heroine's journey. And what she said is that most women who were born into patriarchy, playing the man's game, learning from this way of going about in the world, would do those things, get to the apex of the mountain, look around and say, is this it? Where's my fulfillment? And so at that place, she would look around and her soul was feeling unfulfilled. and she was feeling disconnected. She essentially split from the feminine. Because really it was just half the equation. This was the hero's journey is the external. It's the doing, it's the slaying of the dragons. So if the hero's journey is the slaying of the external dragons and climbing up physical ladders, the heroine's journey is slaying the internal dragons and descending to the spiritual home to reconnect with the feminine soul. Those internal dragons being the rules and the conditions that have suppressed the feminine, keeping us disconnected from our souls, lost in a man's world. And the spiritual home being the womb, both the cosmic and the physical, because this is the source of all creation. It's the fertile void. It's the mystery, the place between the worlds, the creative potential, the Shakti life force energy that is birthed from this place called the womb. And it's said that the womb actually exists within all people, not just women. That it's called the Hera in a man's body. But this concept of the heroine's journey is really teaching us that we're not just doing machines, that we actually need to stop this go, 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 chasing the external, living unconsciously in the mundane, and disconnected from our feminine magic. We as women need to learn how to be and balance the masculine and feminine within ourselves. So the heroine's journey is basically where we're all at right now, is a surrender into the feminine mystery, going from the top of the mountain down. And that's why it might feel like we are collapsing and we are going into the dark, because that is the design. This is how the divine feminine will rise. This is how we will restore the balance of masculine and feminine. And may I put divine in front of that, to restore the balance of the divine masculine and feminine, and heal the wounded masculine and feminine that is pretty much the interaction in our world today. So do you see how this is so important? There's an urgency like never before for us to shift our internal state and to see that the patriarchy is not outside of us, it's within us. By continuing to give your power away to an authority that's outside of yourself, you're never going to be free. We're never going to be free. But this isn't about doing a journey alone. This is about journeying with your sisters. This is why circle is so important, that we must come together, that there is power in women doing work together in community to heal ourselves and one another and the collective, and coming back into right relationship with sisterhood. The sister wound is perpetuated by this divide and conquer technique of war to keep women separate, and now we must come together. Women are not the enemy. What I keep hearing over and over again is how women do not feel safe. Do not feel safe to speak their truth. Do not feel safe to come out of the spiritual closet. Do not feel safe to reveal their hearts. Do not feel safe to be visible. Can you relate? Which one feels most unsafe for you? And maybe it's all of them. Allison Armstrong, when I went to a couple of her workshops, would use the example, if men and women were in the room, of, okay, men, raise your hand if you have felt unsafe in the last day. No hands up. In the last week, no hands up. In the last month, maybe one hand goes up. Okay, women, how many of you have felt unsafe today? Almost every single hand goes up. This is the condition that we have been living in, where we as women feel unsafe. Emotionally, physically, spiritually. It's as if we've been conditioned to think that something's wrong with being a woman. There's no container. There's no protection. It's just an ugly, dangerous world out there. Were you taught that? We must learn how to create safety within our own bodies. We must rewire our nervous systems to feel calm and at peace and centered. This is the path to our safety. We must actually create our own containers of safety, first within ourselves, then within sisterhood. Not relying on a government to create safety, a man to create safety. No, it starts from within. So most of us develop strategies as children to become safe. Most of us, when we cried, were told to suck it up, that it wasn't good to cry, that we shouldn't be so emotional. And maybe we got spanked, maybe we were put in timeout. But to show your emotions, not accepted. Most of us grew up not feeling like it was safe to just simply be ourselves, messy, authentic, real, whatever. No, put a smiley face on, be grateful, and act like you have it all together. That was the conditioning. So from 0 to 7 years old, whatever was going on with the caretakers in our life and the people who we were around, we were being conditioned. We were malleable. We were programmable because our frontal cortex wasn't fully online. We were mainly ruled by the reptilian part of the brain. Frontal cortex essentially comes more online at 7, which is why I can see with my daughter Callie, who's 7 years old right now, that I can actually have rational conversations with her. And she actually can get it and she can understand. There's been a shift, I've noticed. And this is why, because the brain is not fully developed. And it's still developing all the way until about, I think, 21. From 7 to 21, so 14 years, the rational part of the brain is being developed. Meanwhile, we're in this reactive fight, flight, or freeze reptilian part of the brain. So whatever we're being conditioned with, the things that we're learning are imprinted. And so every time we experience a trauma, no matter how micro or macro, it impacts us. And we keep repeating that over and over and over again until we heal it. So there are 5 main childhood learning patterns. Number 1 is our self-esteem. This is the feeling of self-worth, that I belong and I'm significant and what I have to say, I matter. what I say matters, but more importantly, I matter. The second learning is around your needs and desires. Feeling like my needs are important and it's okay for me to have my desires. But what we learned, mainly from watching mom as the self-sacrificing martyr, is that no, someone else's needs were probably more important and your desires were selfish. The third one is limits and boundaries. Having healthy limits, knowing our limits, and being able to set healthy boundaries to keep ourselves safe, to be able to say no, to know our yes, to trust our intuition. Most of us grew up with either learning barriers instead of boundaries, a hard stop, get away, disconnect, or just a lack of boundaries where we were just a pushover and a people pleaser. The fourth childhood learning pattern that we learned was congruency around our thoughts, words, and actions. And this is what we call accountability, being accountable to our word. How many times do you say that you're fine when you're actually not? That's the pattern here. Vulnerability is a weakness. Act like you're okay. Put on the mask. That's not being accountable to who you are. And then the fifth is responsibility. Most of us were conditioned to be more in a reactive state than a responsive state, to be in fight, flight, or freeze instead of presence, loving presence. So most of us actually associate responsibility with burden instead of with power. That by me being 100% responsible for my word, me getting that my word creates my world, I am really a powerful creator. So these continue to show up as patterns today and have us not really connected to our power, not connected to our worth, not connected to our vulnerability or our authenticity. That we are in fear and doubt and anxiety and pretense and proving ourselves, pleasing others. Is that what you want? Not me. So, as women, there are 4 main areas that I believe we need to heal within ourselves and as a collective. The first one is the sister wound. And I like to think of the sister wound as like the maiden, the little girl inside ourselves who has not really fully grown up, hasn't really stepped into spiritual adult. And this has been a conditioning that we can't trust the feminine, therefore we can't trust women, therefore we don't really have any sisters who have our backs. We feel comparison, competition, jealousy, betrayal, cattiness, contraction, all of these things around women. That we don't feel a sense of belonging, that a group of women feels scary, does not feel safe, and just a complete disbelief that women have our backs. And as I have created videos on the sister wound, how many women are like, I don't even believe you that that's even possible, that I can have a circle of women who I can really trust. And this is what we see over and over again in our circles as women for the first time actually feeling that and starting to unravel this old belief system that women are bad and bitches and untrustworthy. Imagine if we do the work to heal the wound of separation and division amongst women. Imagine if we do the work to see every woman as our sister. Doesn't mean we need to be friends. Doesn't mean we have to like them. But like every woman is my sister on this planet. We're all daughters of Mother Earth, of the Great Mother. Wow. Imagine the world if women celebrated and supported one another. Imagine if all women felt safe and accepted in a group of women. How might our planet change for the better? Can you see why this is probably some of the most important work that we can do as women? So I'm going to go into this deeply in the next episode. The second place we need to heal is the mother wound. The amount of times that I have heard in a circle of women feeling disconnected from their own mothers, narcissistic mothers, mothers who just couldn't show up, mothers who were depressed, mothers who were martyrs, mothers who were putting on the face, fake, unapproachable, unloving, you name it. I've heard it all. And where this goes deeper is the wounding that has split us and kept us separate from the Great Mother energy. That we have bowed down to the God, the masculine God of hard work, not softening and surrendering into the Great Mother who will hold us with unconditional love and acceptance. Most of us do not feel held by a greater feminine energy, do not feel like we can just let go and trust and surrender into the mystery. We don't even know what that means. That is the mother wound. And what we saw modeled by our mothers, who were doing the best they could, they are not to blame. This is not personal. This is the conditioning, but we continue to uphold it by not understanding it and not doing the deeper work around it. Our mothers were taught to be martyrs and victims. They were disconnected from their needs and desires and did not know what it meant to set a healthy boundary. And so we let people walk all over us. We don't take care of ourselves. We're not connected with our pleasure. Oh, and yeah, I mean, we'll get into this, but I mean, how many mothers do you know who are having epic, magical sex? Most I hear are not. So we're going to dive deeper into this mother wound. And then the third place for us to heal is the witch wound or the crone. The older woman, the woman who has reached the crone state, has essentially been cast out of our society, has been shamed, put down, made to seem like this ugly old hag, this evil witch who lives out there in the forest. And what we experienced centuries ago was the burning times when women were labeled as witches and burned at the stake. And regardless of if you feel like you are a witch or not, this impacted all women today. because it set an example of what happens when you speak up, when you're connected to the earth, when you are connected with your own spirituality, when you go against the grain of the patriarchy, you will be brought down. Can you see maybe why women are afraid to speak up and be visible? Which one? And then the fourth, which is just as important as these three feminine ones, is the masculine, the father wound. Most of our fathers were emotionally unavailable. Whether they were physically there or not, many of us were daddy's girls because it was like the better of the two evils, but still weren't getting our emotional needs met by dad. And so there's this way in which we keep having men show up in our lives who aren't able to show up, and how then we castrate men and we put them down and we think them as weak, and and the list goes on, and just this separation that we've created between the sexes, this fight, this power struggle, this victim perpetrator, and how we think that there are no good men in this world and there are no men who show up. Well, this starts with us, sisters, healing our own internal father wound first. Take the blame and take the pressure off the men to save us. Start looking within to heal this part. Because like I said earlier, a calm body creates more calm bodies. Your healing creates more healing. The people around you are affected by your energy. When you are coming from a place of acceptance and love and compassion for the masculine, that's when they can actually tune into that energy for themselves. We are the change we wish to see in the world. Our father wound also leads us to be disconnected from fulfilling our purpose, from owning our value and worth and making money, in being vulnerable, of opening our hearts. Again, it's not about the men out there. It's about the inner part, the inner father wound within yourself. The thing is that your parents were doing the best they could. Your caretakers were doing the best they could. The teachers, your brother and sisters, they were doing the best they could. This is all inherited. This is all passed down from generation to generation. We have the opportunity to draw our lines in the sand by doing the internal work, by going on our heroine's journey. Deep down into the mystery, into the dark, doing the shadow work here in these 4 areas. A mantra that I learned that I think is very, very helpful on this journey is, this is not the truth of who I am. This is what I learned. All this conditioning, all of these interactions that I had at childhood, I learned them. They're beliefs. They're not truths. This is not who I am. This is not the truth of who I am. This is what I learned. And if I learned it, I can unlearn it. And I can learn something new. So what does it look like to actually heal these 4 areas? Number 1 is awareness. Having the awareness that there is something to heal here, that there is a wound here, that there are beliefs that are keeping you disconnected, keeping you out of love and affinity, keeping you feeling unsafe, keeping you constricted, confined, contracted, in fear, in doubt, in worry. The second piece to healing is your commitment to doing the work and acceptance of the path, acceptance of the heroine's journey, the mystery of it, the challenge of it, the blood, sweat, and tears of it. And the third part is discovering the cause and effect, to actually roll up your sleeves and go in there and see what is happening in my life now and where is it coming from? What's the cause, the true deep underlying cause of wherever I'm suffering today, of whatever circumstance that's not working for me, of whatever is making me miserable, whatever I am tolerating, all of the things that are not working, that actually has nothing to do with this external, this whatever is in real time right now. It's coming from the age of 0 to 7 years old. It's going way back. That's the healing, discovering the cause and effect. And then number 4, once you discover that, to release it, release the limited beliefs, pull them out, take them out by the root, all those weeds, and plant the new garden by replacing these beliefs with new beliefs. And then number 5 is integration of starting to take new actions in the world, new way of being. That when someone triggers you, that you know how to regulate your nervous system and come into a place of response versus reaction. That you are able to be present and fully show up even when you're overwhelmed, triggered, upset, shut down. That you are able to be more present, that you could keep bringing yourself back to presence. Now we've got some healthy women, leaders out there in the world, some brave women who can lead the way for the rest of humanity. It starts with you, sister. You're the brave woman. So in the next episode, let's start going into Sister Wound. Let's go there. I would love to hear from you. If you can share, and you'll see in the show notes where to share. Which one feels most triggering for you? Which one, I mean, it might be all of them, but which one really pops? I'd love to take a poll here. In fact, maybe we'll create a poll. We'll create a poll in our Facebook group. You could come join us in our Facebook group, answer the poll. Again, that link will be in the show notes. Thank you, brave woman, and I'll see you soon.
You just listened to this show. I'd love for you to leave the Brave Woman podcast an honest review. Reviews help podcasts like this one grow, making it more possible for me to devote my time, energy, and money to its production. If you take a screenshot of your review and email it to support@sistershipcircle.com, we'll send you one of our archetype activations as a thank you gift. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it.
Up next, do you want deeper, more meaningful relationships with other women? To feel like women truly have your back? We're going to dive into what keeps us disconnected, separated, and mistrusting one another as women in the next episode. All about what I call healing the sister wound.